As we looked at last week, language is often responsible for creating ego, simple, and pseudo-conflict. Language, however, is also a powerful tool for problem solving. In this presentation, we'll cover how we can use language to solve these conflicts. This chart depicts 5 common responses to conflict. Due to various motivations, we might choose to avoid the conflict when we withdraw from the discussion, or we might give in to the argument or position. Sometimes we might try to win or dominate, and other times we might aim for a compromise or a collaborative solution. Our focus this week will be on collaborative approaches to conflict, where our goal is to solve the problem, meeting as many goals as possible for everyone. There are 3 main problem-solving approaches, and they are: Number 1, manage your emotions and take the conflict out of ego conflict. Number 2, manage the information and take it out of pseudo-conflict. Number 3, manage the problem and determine what we are arguing about. We can manage our emotions and resolve ego conflict by using report language instead of snarl words and loaded language. We should avoid the language of allness, as in you never take out the trash, or you always take an early lunch. And finally, we should focus on issues, not personalities. Usually, underneath the ego conflict is simple or pseudo-conflict. We can manage information and resolve pseudo-conflict by, again, using report language, asking for clarification if we're not sure about the speaker's meaning, or establishing a supportive climate can also help solve pseudo-conflict. For example, if an employee is afraid to ask his boss for clarification, then it will take longer for the misunderstanding to be cleared up. Despite the name, simple conflict is anything but simple, and it's usually the most difficult type of conflict to problem solve. One of the first steps to managing simple conflict is to determine what the argument is about. Here are some questions we might use to determine what the argument is about. Are there different beliefs about people and human nature in the positions? Perhaps different views of the role of government, or different views of right and wrong. Maybe it is different definitions of God, or different definitions of patriotism, or different definitions of personal freedom. Is the language different because beliefs are different? Is one positional intentional, that is, in your head, and one extensional, meaning in the world? Another step to resolving simple conflict is to identify slanting, loaded language, snarl, and purr words, and replace them with report language. Acknowledging abstraction also allows us to manage simple conflict because it makes us consider what qualities we are going to focus on and what qualities we are going to ignore. Words can never say all about anything. For example, if I talk about someone as a criminal, I am abstracting that quality of the person and ignoring that they are also a daughter and all their behavior that isn't criminal. Similarly, the words Christian, atheist, parent, and student focus on or abstract only certain qualities of an individual. None of these labels say all there is to say about a person. The thing or person we experience is only a small fraction of the total. Abstracting occurs when we take or select parts of a whole. Abstracting means that we only recognize some parts or qualities of an event, object, or person. An example of abstraction would be when arguing over what is the best Detroit sports team. We might choose to focus on their regular season records or the number of titles that they hold. We might argue that one team is best because they have the most young potential or the most seasoned veterans. In either case, we are not talking about which team has the most players without their gallbladders, or which team has the most homeowners or the most parents. In this argument, by focusing on some qualities and ignoring others, we are abstracting. Abstraction is necessary. It helps us communicate and resolve conflicts. In a conflict over which printer we should purchase for the office, we can work towards an agreement by agreeing to abstract certain details of the printer: cost, color, manufacturer, and ignore other characteristics like molecular makeup, which store sells the printer, and whether it's wireless. There are different levels of abstraction. High-level abstraction leaves out most of the qualities of the person, thing, or event, and often they do not have extensional meaning. Remember, extensional meanings are those that we can point to in the real physical world. If I take my job and put it on a ladder of abstraction, one of the highest levels of abstraction for describing what I do is work. This word has no extensional meaning. I cannot put my hand over my mouth and point to work. It also ignores many qualities of what my work is. Teaching is also a high-level abstraction. Again, I can't point to the concept of teaching. At best, I could only point to a specific act of teaching, which, as we'll see, is a lower level of abstraction. The word teaching acknowledges more qualities of what I do than the word work, but it still leaves out many. As we move down the ladder of abstraction, we reach lower level abstraction. We leave out fewer qualities and extensional definitions become possible. A lower level abstraction for describing my job would be teaching English 410 at Northwood. This description is more specific and leaves out fewer qualities of my job than teaching college English. I cannot point to teaching English 410 at Northwood, but we're getting close to an extensional meaning. I could point to Northwood on a map, and I could point to English 410 on a class schedule or listing of courses. Dead level abstracting occurs when someone stays on one level of abstraction, either high or low level. Effective problem solving requires the constant interplay of both levels. For example, in the conflict over which printer to purchase, the colleagues will need to talk about higher abstract words like page volume, ink cartridge pricing, and lower abstract words like HP Model 2530. The final way to problem solve simple conflict is to use both two-valued and multi-valued orientation. Two-valued orientation is the language of allness and either all. Some example of two-valued orientation include: no men help with housework. All women are bad drivers. Conservatives never hold corporations accountable for environmental damage. Liberals always raise taxes. Multi-valued orientation involves speaking in degrees rather than all or nothing. It involves gradations of truth. We need both approaches for effective problem solving. For example, two colleagues are having a simple conflict over whether to purchase new software. Colleague number 1 doesn't want the software because it's expensive. Colleague number 2 wants the software because it will allow employees to be more productive. Using a two-valued orientation, either they decide to purchase the software or they don't. But are there only two options? They could look into getting a trial version to test the software out first. They could purchase software for only some computers. There might be an option to lease the software on a month-by-month basis. Or they might try out other comparable software. According to Hayakawa, two-valued thinking is emotionally persuasive, required to express strong feelings, and a paddle that starts the conversation. The question, should we purchase the software or not, gets the conversation started. But multi-valued thinking is the rudder that steers the conversation toward the destination. We should examine all the options with an open mind and then select one. Good decisions are two-valued and multi-valued.